On paper, Maya's life was enviable, a corporate strategist at a fast-growing firm, a sleek apartment downtown with minimalist decor, and Adam, her charming, supportive boyfriend, who always remembered to buy oat milk. Her social media glowed with curated brunches, weekend getaways, and filtered smiles. Friends called her lucky, colleagues called her focused, and her parents, proud of her upward arc, had stopped asking if she was happy. But inside, Maya felt like she was sleepwalking through someone else's dream. Her alarm rang at 6:45 every morning, her coffee machine sputtered to life at 6:47, her train arrived at 7:12. Every detail of her life clicked into place like a well-oiled machine. But there were moments, brief, disorienting moments, when the silence between those clicks became deafening, when she'd catch herself staring blankly at a spreadsheet, wondering why she cared about quarterly trends, or when Adam would be telling her a story, and she'd suddenly realize she hadn't heard a word he'd said. It was during one of those gaps, early morning, skies still bruised with sleep, that her phone buzzed. One new voicemail, no caller ID, no missed call. She pressed play. "You were never meant to live this life." A woman's voice, calm, even, almost kind, but there was something haunting beneath the softness, not menace, exactly, but knowing. And strangest of all, it sounded like someone she should remember. Maya froze. For the first time in years, her routine cracked, and something unfamiliar seeped in, a flicker of unease and the quiet thrill of being seen. For a while, Maya told herself it was just a prank, a weird wrong number, a misdialed podcast ad, maybe even some kind of marketing stunt. She deleted the voicemail, but the words echoed, quietly and persistently, like a riddle she couldn't stop repeating in her head. Days passed, her life continued, at least on the surface, but she felt off-center, like her reality had tilted a few degrees. Her routines, once comforting, now felt artificial, like stage cues. She started noticing things she hadn't before, or maybe things that hadn't been there at all. It started with the lamppost outside her office, a small symbol etched into the metal, subtle and almost invisible unless you were looking closely. 3 concentric circles, imperfectly drawn but unmistakably deliberate. She paused, frowning at it, but told herself it was probably graffiti. Then she saw it again, this time chalked onto the pavement near her apartment. 3 circles, no signature, no meaning, just there, waiting. That night, she dreamed of it, the circles spinning like a vortex, pulling her toward something she couldn't name. She woke with a start, drenched in sweat, the shape burned behind her eyelids like a warning or a map. Still, she didn't talk to anyone about it, not Adam, not her friends. She feared how easily the words would fall apart if spoken aloud. Later that week, during a lunchtime walk, she wandered into a quiet, dusty library she hadn't entered since college. No real reason, she just drifted. Her fingers trailed along the spines until one thin, worn book fell forward on its own. Poetry. The spine cracked as she opened it, and something fluttered out, a piece of yellowed paper, folded twice. She hesitated before unfolding it. Inside, scrawled in quick, slanted ink, "Do you feel it too?" Her heart knocked once, hard, in her chest. She looked around. The library was nearly empty. No one watching, no one near. And yet, someone had left this for her, or for someone exactly like her. It started with a single search. Late at night, curled on the couch with a glass of wine she hadn't really wanted, Maya opened a private browser window and typed the words from the note. "Do you feel it too?" Dozens of irrelevant results, until, halfway down the 3rd page, a link with no preview, no description, and no metadata, just a black screen with one line of text, "The Detour, listen if you've started noticing things." She hovered over the play button, her finger trembling slightly. It felt ridiculous, and yet she clicked. The podcast had no music, no ads, no introductions, just a woman's voice, low, steady, intimate. It was like being spoken to in a dark room by someone who knew exactly how to get under your skin. You wake up every day and tell yourself this is what you wanted, but some part of you, buried deep, knows this isn't your life. You were rerouted, redirected, placed. Maya sat upright, because the voice wasn't just familiar, it was the same one from the voicemail. But more than that, it was speaking directly to her. In the 2nd episode, the narrator described a moment Maya had lived only a few nights ago, the silent fight with Adam over dinner, the way he'd stared at her when she asked if he ever felt like they were living on autopilot, even the specific phrase Maya had used, "It's like I'm a passenger in my own body," word for word. How is that possible? She listened to all 5 episodes in one sitting. Each one peeled back a layer she hadn't known was covering her. The doubts she buried, the disconnection she couldn't name, the choices that hadn't really felt like hers. The voice didn't offer advice. It didn't try to fix her. It simply knew. By 3 a.m., her hands were shaking. She replayed one particular sentence over and over. "There is a difference between being safe and being free, and no one ever asks which one you wanted." She couldn't sleep after that. She kept checking her phone, half expecting the voice to call again, or for a new episode to drop, or for something else to break. Maya didn't realize it yet, but she was already drifting, away from the life she'd been living, and towards something far stranger. Adam had always been steady. He folded his laundry with corners aligned. He cooked on Sundays and meal prepped for the week ahead. When Maya broke down crying once over something she couldn't even name, he didn't panic. He just brought her tea and sat beside her, in silence until she could breathe again. But now, something was different. It wasn't anything he said, it was what he didn't say. His silences had shifted, not gentle pauses, but guarded hesitations. His reassurances started to feel too rehearsed, like he was trying to hold her in place. After Maya discovered the detour, she stopped telling Adam things. At first it was small, not mentioning a dream, skipping a stray observation, but soon, she found herself withholding larger pieces, the recurring symbol, the notes, the uncanny podcast episodes that mirrored her private life. And Adam, for his part, stopped asking, or maybe he never really had. One night, she caught him watching her, not lovingly, not curiously, but observing, as though trying to track something invisible about her. She smiled reflexively, and he smiled back, but it didn't reach his eyes. Then there was the drawer. It was in his home office, locked, unusual, considering they shared everything, or at least, she had thought they did. The key, as it turned out, was tucked inside a hollowed-out self-help book on his shelf. She found it by accident, or maybe intuition. The lock clicked open late one evening while Adam was out on a quick errand. Inside, folders, labeled and numbered. One read, Behavioral Redirection Initiative, subject #046, Maya D. She pulled it out with shaking hands. Pages and pages, charts, mood logs, social interactions, even transcripts of therapy sessions she never knew were recorded. There were graphs that mapped her likelihood to awaken against environmental triggers. Stabilizing interventions were highlighted, including Adam himself. A small photo was clipped to the back. It was her, taken from across the street, blurry, candid. She didn't remember the moment, but her expression was unmistakable. Lost, searching, the drawer, the file, the tracking. It didn't just betray her trust, it rewrote her entire relationship. She stood in the middle of the room for a long time, heart pounding, mouth dry. The apartment around her felt unfamiliar, like a model unit she'd wandered into by mistake. Adam wasn't who he claimed to be. He wasn't just her boyfriend. And suddenly, Maya didn't know if he ever had been. Maya didn't confront him right away. She carried the folder in her bag for 2 days, waiting for the right moment. But there's never a right moment to tell someone you've discovered your entire life might be an orchestrated illusion. On the third night, Adam came home humming. He had flowers, sunflowers, her favorite. He cooked her pasta, just like he did the night they first met. It was all too perfect, too well-timed, like a reset button had been pressed. When he sat down across from her and asked, "Everything okay?" she didn't answer. She simply pulled the folder from her bag and slid it across the table. Adam didn't move. He didn't even look surprised. "Say something," Maya whispered, her voice cracking. He exhaled slowly, like a man walking toward a door he'd hoped would never open. Then he said the words that made her stomach twist. "You weren't supposed to find that yet." He didn't deny it, didn't pretend it was a joke or a misunderstanding. Instead, he stood and walked to the window, staring out into the night like the truth was something distant and far away. Adam told her everything, or at least, what he claimed was everything. Maya had been selected 3 years ago by something called the Behavioral Redirection Initiative, part of a larger optimization program, managed by an unnamed organization. Its mission, to identify individuals who showed signs of cognitive dissonance, existential discontent, or a tendency to question societal norms, people like Maya, and gently reroute them into lives of safety, predictability, and structure. "You were veering," he said, questioning everything. "The system can't have that, so they gave you me." Adam hadn't volunteered. He'd been chosen too, trained, assigned, and compensated. He had played the role of her ideal partner not out of love, but out of obligation. "But I did grow to care about you," he said, "more than I should have." Maya laughed, bitter, broken, because that line, more than all the others, felt like a script. She wanted to scream, to cry, to run, but her body wouldn't move. Her mind was a storm of betrayal and revelation. "You were protecting me?" she asked. "From what?" Adam hesitated. Then, quietly, "From the truth, from chaos, from yourself." That's when she realized, he truly believed what he was saying. He didn't see himself as her captor. He saw himself as her guardian, and that made it so much worse. The walls of her life, once invisible, were now fully exposed, and she had no idea how long she'd been living inside a cage designed not with bars, but with comfort, love, and safety. Maya didn't say a word as she walked out the door, but something inside her had already broken, and something else had just begun to awaken. After that night, Maya couldn't return to her old routines. Sleep evaded her like a fading dream. She needed answers, not just from Adam, but from the invisible web that had ensnared her. She dove into the internet's shadowy corners, places few dared to visit, encrypted forums, forgotten chat rooms, anonymous message boards buried deep beneath layers of encryption. There, she found the thread, a sparse, haunting collection of posts from people who described experiences eerily like hers. Accounts of strange symbols appearing, cryptic messages in books, podcasts that seemed tailored to their lives, and loved ones who suddenly felt like strangers. The posts were fragmented, sometimes incoherent, but the fear and confusion behind them were unmistakable. They spoke of a vast system, unseen and implacable, designed to redirect those who questioned too deeply. Some called it the program, others whispered the reclamation. Most chillingly, the thread ended abruptly. The last few posts vanished, accounts deleted, conversations cut off mid-sentence. Compelled, Maya tracked the last known user, a man named Eli. She found his apartment through a mutual online contact. The place was frozen in time, dishes piled up, a cold cup of coffee still on the table, an old typewriter with a single sheet in the carriage. No sign of Eli. Neighbors hadn't seen him in weeks. His phone disconnected. Maya's breath caught. It was as if Eli had been swallowed whole by the very system he'd tried to expose. That's when the crushing weight of reality hit her. This wasn't just about control or comfort. It was about a Rosher. And she was next. Alone in the dim light of Ellis' apartment, Maya traced her fingers over the faded, yellowed pages of his last notes. His handwriting trembled with desperation. They don't want us to see. They don't want us to leave. Outside, the city buzzed unaware, millions of lives humming with the illusion of freedom. But Maya knew better now. The safety Adam spoke of was a carefully woven trap, and the walls were closing in. Maya's resolve hardened. She could no longer afford the luxury of hope or hesitation. The threads of her former life were unraveling fast, and she was determined not to be another name lost in the silence. She started small. First, she wiped her phone clean, deleting every contact, every message, every app that could betray her. Then, she discarded her credit cards and bought a stack of prepaid burner phones with cash and traceable, disposable. She learned to avoid digital footprints, no credit purchases, no loyalty programs, no social media. Every transaction was cash, every conversation carefully guarded. But freedom wasn't just about technology. It was a psychological game, one she hadn't been prepared to play. Because no matter where she went, someone was watching. She noticed it first on the subway, a woman sitting 2 seats away, reading a book Maya had never seen before. The same symbol, 3 concentric circles, subtly embossed on the cover. The woman's gaze flicked to Maya's face, sharp, calculating, before she slipped a small card into Maya's palm as the train lurched forward. Maya didn't look at it until she was home. One word, typed cleanly on a plain white card. Remember. Who was she? Friend, foe, guardian, spy? Maya's phone buzzed again, but no voicemail this time. Just a text message from an unknown number. You can't run forever. Her heart thundered. The trap was tightening. They knew, but so did she. Maya set new rules for herself. Trust no one. Keep moving. Stay unseen. She switched apartments twice in 2 weeks, changed her coffee shop, avoided familiar routes. Each day was a dance on a razor's edge. One misstep and everything could come crashing down. Yet despite the fear, a quiet fire burned inside her. She wasn't just fleeing. She was reclaiming herself, piece by fragile piece, because the cage had been cracked, and soon, it would shatter. The night was thick with rain, when the voice spoke again, not from her phone, but inside her mind, clear and urgent. You have one choice left. It came through a new episode of The Detour, the podcast that had become both her guide and her tormentor. This time, the narrator's voice carried an uncharacteristic weight, a finality that sent chills down Maya's spine. Hidden within the audio was a sequence of numbers, coordinates, encoded in a faint melody woven beneath the narrator's words. Her fingers trembled as she jotted them down, heart pounding with a mix of dread and determination. Against every instinct screaming for safety, Maya followed the coordinates to a remote stretch of forest miles from the city's reach. The path was overgrown, almost forgotten, lined with ancient pines whispering secrets in the wind. At the end of the trail stood a cabin, weathered but sturdy, the wood darkened by time and moss. No electricity, no cell signal, just silence and shadows. Inside, Maya found relics of a world that felt both distant and intimately connected to her own. Stacks of cassette tapes, yellow journals filled with scrawled notes, old radios wired with antennas that reached like skeletal fingers into the sky. On a worn desk lay a manifesto titled The Reclaimers. She flipped through its pages, reading words that seemed to pulse with her own heartbeat. To reclaim freedom, we must first remember what was taken. To step off the path is to step into the unknown, but also into truth. This is the choice we all face. For the first time, Maya understood that her journey was no longer just about escape. It was about revolution, a call not just to run from control, but to awaken others trapped in their own cages. The cabin wasn't a refuge, it was a command center, a beacon, and a beginning. As thunder rolled outside, Maya felt the weight of the choice pressing down on her. One choice left, and this time, it was hers alone. The apartment was suffocatingly quiet when Maya returned. Adam was there, waiting, not with anger or accusation, but with something heavier, resignation. His eyes, once warm and familiar, now held a fragile sorrow, like a man who had lost not just a person, but a mission. "Don't do this," he said softly, voice barely above a whisper. "They'll find you. They always do." Maya met his gaze, steady and unflinching. "Or worse," he added, "they'll recruit you." She knew what he meant. She'd seen it in Ellis' empty apartment, heard it in the silence of vanished voices. Adam reached out, fingers trembling. "You belong somewhere else now, but once you leave, there's no going back." For a moment, the weight of it crushed her, the loss of the life she'd known, the love she'd once believed in. But then she remembered the manifesto, the tapes, the countless moments she'd felt the cage closing in. She took a deep breath. "I have too," she said. Without another word, she erased every digital trace, phone numbers, email accounts, social media profiles, wiped clean like footprints in the sand before a tide. She packed a small bag, no more than essentials, cash, papers, a few worn clothes. At the door, she turned back to Adam. He smiled sadly, a silent farewell. No promises, no tears. Then, without looking back, Maya stepped out into the night. The city's lights blurred behind her as she melted into the shadows. Her identity was gone, her trail was cold, and the cage, at last, was open. Months passed in silence. Maya had vanished from every map, every record, every digital ledger. The world she left behind buzzed on, unaware of the woman who had slipped through its cracks. In a small apartment across the country, a young man's phone rang. No caller ID. "Curious," he answered. A voicemail played. "You were never meant to live this life." His eyes widened. The words echoed in his mind like a summons, familiar yet unsettling. He looked around the dim room, peeling wallpaper, a single desk lamp, a cluttered notebook filled with scribbles and questions. The message repeated. The man's breath caught. Was this a warning, a call for help, or the first thread in a larger web? Meanwhile, somewhere deep in an underground studio, Maya sat before a microphone, calm and composed. Her voice, steady and clear, filled the empty room. "If you're hearing this, you've started to notice. You're not alone. Welcome to the detour." She wasn't just a fugitive anymore. She was a guide, a beacon for the lost, the curious, the awakened. The cage had been broken, but now, the real journey was just beginning.